partnership with Share Your Genius, we're actually starting to record and turn those recordings of the sessions into a podcast series, which you'll see coming out later in the year. And that's why I have the microphone, because the microphone is going over the mic over there into the recorder so that we can turn it into magic on the internet. All right? So, thanks everybody for coming. Really appreciate it. A lot of people I've talked to right before here that came for the first time maybe at Lessonly. You're coming back for a second time, so that's freaking awesome. I love that. Also heard of several of you that says you brought people with you, which is like super cool, so keep that going. And I'm seeing a lot of faces that I have not seen in quite a while. I have not seen you in a while, Beth. So that's really, really, really cool to kind of see all the faces in the room, and I appreciate you taking your time out on this rainy evening to either come downtown or stay downtown a little bit longer if you already work here and spend some time hanging out with us. I think that's really, really cool. So, going to get started. The format this time, we're going to do kind of a fireside chat format with Eva running that piece. Also, she is pointing out that I should be talking about our sponsors outside of the Share Your Genius from a podcast perspective. We also have Perk and PFL helping, and then Design on Tap has been providing a lot of really amazing kind of design resources for us as we start getting some things up and running from a sponsorships perspective or just general branding as a whole. So big shout outs to them. They have been longtime supporters of us for, well, since the beginning, and they're definitely a space that we go to pretty regularly just to talk through some of the brand and identity things that we've got going on. Right. The other thing on there as well is all the communication methods, right? So you got this room, which is awesome. Love seeing you here. But what happens after you leave here, right? We've got a pretty active Slack group, which is actually started by one of the attendees, which I think is amazing, right? So that is the agilemarketingindy.slack.com. Definitely jump on there. You got the main room. You've got like a book club going in there. People post jobs in there from time to time as well, which can be really, really great if you're looking for something right now. And then the other thing is the LinkedIn channel. So for history, for those of you who've been around for a long time, if you remember, this whole thing really kind of started as a LinkedIn group, right? Which then grew into a coffee and bagels in the morning type of meetup, which then grew into the evening events that you know of now and the many formats that we've had over the past almost 2 years now. In addition to that, also for social media, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, putting out a lot of great content for there. And one of the other reasons that I really love the idea of recording is that it allows us to start chopping some of this up and releasing it through those channels as well for the times that are in between. It's kind of like a cheat sheet for your notes, right? So really excited about that. Now for a speaker, I'm going to read this because she's so awesome. I've got to actually have some paper in here for her. All right. So Amber. She is an Indianapolis native. She's entering her 6th season with the Indianapolis Colts, and her first full season as the Director of Social and Digital Content Strategy, which is a huge title for a huge logo, and I love that. She is also a graduate of the University of Indianapolis and spent time in corporate and agency settings before finding her home with the Colts. Heard her talking about a little bit of that right as we were getting set up. Sounded really cool, so I hope we get into a little of that during this little chat. I think that'll be really nice to know. And I already mentioned about the fact that we are recording. So both of them will be mic'd up. Just a reminder, you will not hear them through the ceiling. You will hear them, I don't know, through their mouths and stuff. All right. And then when we get to the Q&A portion, we'll probably pass this around. So please wait until we hand you the mic before you ask the question so we can know what your question was before she answers it. And everyone's like, what's going on? What was she talking about? All right, cool. So I'm going to hand off to Eva.
Yeah. Let's give it up for Amber before we get started. All right, let me get situated here. So I'm pretty excited about this because Amber and I go way back, about 2013 back, probably.
Yeah, which is wild.
I was actually Amber's supervisor when she was an intern at FormStack. I don't know, am I allowed to talk about that?
Yes,
okay,
you can.
I already said it, so it's fine. So I feel like kind of like a proud mom / grandmother moment with this interview. So I'm really excited to kind of sit down with you. Thank you so much again for joining us today. I have some questions just around how Amber manages her day-to-day at the Colts, some tips for people in this room who may be interested in sports marketing or just regular marketing efficiency tips. And then I did bring some PFL socks. If you guys ask questions, I can hook you up with that. So I do incentivize for questions. Awesome, well, let's go ahead and get started. So first thing, we just want to know about you. So tell us about your journey to the Colts, what interested you in sports marketing, what accomplishments led to you joining the Colts team? Just like a small novel before we get rolling.
So fun fact, wasn't a Colts fan, was a Cowboys fan. And I wouldn't say that the Colts was my dream job. I think that's really surprising to people. I wouldn't say NFL was a dream either. I started in college as an athletic training major, so I did love sports. But the digital communications, the PR, the social media side of things didn't really take off until I realized that I hated athletic training, which was after one semester. So I attended the University of Indianapolis, and when I was looking for something that wasn't athletic training, I just went to their homepage, and they had just been ranked, I think, #1 in the nation for their student-run PR firm, which is called Top Dog. And I said, #1 in the nation sounds pretty cool. I will be a part of that. So my start was just kind of by luck, in terms of just kind of like finding my path, finding what I enjoyed. And I really think I probably got lucky with my path in terms of my...
I need to stop you. You've been saying luck a lot. Is that pun intended?
No, maybe. But and it's always funny because you work really hard and you want to like take ownership for all of your hard work, but I just always feel like I was in the right place at the right time. Because our student-run PR firm, I ran for a director job that, like, as a student, it sounded cooler than what it was. And I didn't get it, but Mindy Warney, who works with Blast Media, was somebody that was, like, I don't know, I guess, like, interviewing us. And she was like, you shouldn't do this, you should come work with me. Again, luck that she was in the room and she offered me an internship, and boom, that's where I was. A classmate, Laura Parker, is why I joined FormStack and met I had the best time at FormStack. I was just telling them online forms is not sexy at all, but it was the funnest atmosphere ever. I learned a lot there. I learned a lot from you. And so yeah, at Blast is where a coworker was sisters with somebody that worked at the Colts, and they were looking for a digital media intern. I was in my senior year, and she suggested that I apply. They didn't really post the listing anywhere publicly. I think that they were just kind of really hoping to kind of get it word of mouth. And she suggested me and gave me the email address of my soon-to-be advisor, or I guess he was a director of digital at the time. And I just sent in a resume and had the job within, I think it was like a week. So again, I feel like luck has a lot to do with it, but I was blessed with my start. I had a very traditional growth in the Indianapolis Colts organization. So intern, social media coordinator, social media manager, director of social and digital content strategy. So very traditional level of growth there, but I've been a one-woman show the entire time that I've been there. So I think that always surprises people when they hear that there's only one person behind all of the social media accounts, but that has been the case for the last 5 seasons. I am luckily going into my 6th, and I say luckily because they didn't have to give me this person, but they are. So I'm hiring a social media manager as we speak that will assist me in the 2019 season. So my 6th season will hopefully be our best, and I've got a little bit of help. But yeah, it's a really, really quick rundown of just my life pattern there.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're gonna get into kind of the how you're going to manage things as you add more
Yeah.
people to the team in a little bit. But I think a big reason why a lot of people showed up tonight is they just kind of want to know what a day in the life is like for you. So it's probably really hard to describe in, just a more average day. But just what is a typical day or week or month like for you?
Yeah, so I usually answer this question with in-season and off-season because they are two very different worlds. In-season, it's very much a routine. You know exactly what to expect. And I honestly think that in-season is less busy than off-season, which I think also surprises people. But in-season, so our office hours are 8:30 to 5. We always put quotes on 5 because nobody ever leaves at 5. My first thing that I always do, I think everybody does it when they wake up in the morning too, is just check social media. So I love reading our mentions. I love seeing what fans are talking about, what happened the night before, doing just like a quick rundown of how our content performed the night before. I like to do real-time analysis in terms of our posts, what we were getting mentioned for, and in season, you're obviously getting mentioned a lot more, just because of the week-to-week games, your performance. So I spend a decent chunk in the morning just kind of going through all of that. We work pretty heavily with our partnership department, so sponsorship, and a lot of our sponsored content, they request real-time analytics, so I'm going through and pulling those individual numbers for our sponsored content that went out the night before. We usually try to give 24 or 48 hours, sometimes 72 hours on a post to kind of really get its life. And then we'll pull those, send those over. There's usually practice or weight room, so we'll write in that. See what else we do. Sometimes we eat.
That's important.
Yes, very important. We do a lot of meetings, and it's usually just either brainstorming for like that upcoming game, if there's some kind of theme or the opponent has some history, but just quick brainstorming meetings with like our whole content group. And I would say, we travel if it's an away game, so I'll attend every single game. Been lucky to go, we went to London, so I got to go there. I honestly had never been to like any other NFL stadium before this job, so getting to travel to the away games has been great. And then a game day is just blur most of the time. You wake up really early. Most of our games are usually at 1 o'clock, so you wake up, you get to the stadium usually like no less than like 4 hours before, and you're usually there 4 hours after the last whistle blows. So it's a really, really, really long day. I run a lot on game days just because I am by myself. I like to work from my laptop and also capture content with my phone. So it's really hard to run with a laptop. So you just point back and forth. So if you're ever at a game and you see somebody just physically running on the sidelines that isn't a player, it's usually me. But I love it. Game days are probably my favorite, but I would say a normal day in the life is just a lot of reviewing content, scheduling content, posting content. Right now I'm kind of switching my roles from being the social media manager to more strategy, so a lot of reviewing content and kind of brainstorming and planning more of those tentpole events. So with the draft coming up, and that's an off-season one, but just in-season, kind of planning for like the things that are coming ahead. So when Pro Bowl voting is coming, how are we going to plan that attack with online social voting? So a lot of meetings, practice, weight room, tweets, Instagram photos, going through so many photos. I also watch, read, and look at every single piece of content before I post about it, because I want to know what I'm sharing with our audience. So you ingest a lot of Colts news. So I feel like I know everything there is to know about the Colts. But off season's a little different. It's more so on call. That's why I rushed to get here, because we signed Clinton Gathers at like 4:45 of all times. So I was like really trying to get that stuff out, because I was like, the traffic is going to be awful. But off season, it's very much on call. especially during like free agency time, because the season ends and you go straight to the Pro Bowl, and then you've got combine, and then you've got free agency, and then you've got draft, and then you have OTAs, and people are like, isn't the off season like calm? And it's the opposite. It's the worst. The in season is very much a routine. Off season is just a big roller coaster, and then there's like 2 or 3 weeks in like June, July time where there's absolutely nothing, and it's the best.
And you usually go to Disney World, right?
100%. 100%.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to circle back to the point you made about doing a lot of reporting and pulling analytics.
Yes.
I'm curious, you mentioned there are certain things that you have to pull for sponsors, for other people within the org. What goals is your team or you accountable for? And then how do you go about planning to set those goals and achieve them?
Yeah, so I would honestly say that this is probably going to change a little bit for us going into this next season, just because of the resources that we have are growing. So I think we're listening to our fans a little bit more in terms of like what kind of content they would want, rather than what's the content that we're able to make that we can provide for them. So I'm really big on engagement, right? Like I want that percentage to be really high. I dropped our post volume down quite a bit from when I started. I would say in 2014, 2015, and 2016, we were almost like an RSS feed. If there was anything on the website, it was going on our social channels, and it wasn't pretty. I mean, I look at like posts from like 2015, and I'm just like embarrassed that I posted, and like low-key like sometimes delete them just in hopes that like nobody notices that they're gone. But so engagement rate is really important to me, because I don't want to just post to post. We're putting a lot more thought behind what we're sharing. We want the news to be relevant to our fans, and we also want it to be fun and entertaining. So if it doesn't entertain, if it doesn't inform, then it's not relatable. We probably won't post it. And I think it's honestly really shown, especially on our Twitter feed. We were posting hundreds of tweets a week. And now we're down to just like a handful throughout the day. So I would say engagement rate's pretty high for us, because we want to get the most out of every post, and we want to make sure that we're pleasing our fans. But at the same time, our website is, we are a business and we need to earn money. And so finding a way that's a healthy balance of engaging fans on our social platforms, but also finding a way to drive traffic back to our website has been a really fun kind of challenge for us. But I think that we've done a really good job, and we haven't seen a drop in traffic with the drop in post volume, which has been really pleasing. So that's just kind of telling us that we aren't wasting our time on content that isn't relevant to our fan base, that we're delivering what they want to see, which has been really good.
Great. You mentioned that you've scaled back and kind of become more deliberate about what you've been posting. Yeah. How do you kind of balance that, the planning of content, the scheduling of content, with the ups and downs that just come with an NFL season?
Yeah.
But surely there's stuff that you have to just react to.
So
there's a lot probably that you have to react to in real time.
I thought for the longest that I was the reason we were losing, because I joined right at the end of that 2014 season, and we went to the playoffs and things were great. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but we hadn't had a winning season since then until last year. So every year I was like, okay, all right, so it's me. So honestly, I would say the bulk of my time running Colts Social has been losing seasons, losing quarterbacks, losing not owners, but GMs and coach, and it was such a rough time. So honestly, I could probably relate more to the downs than the ups. Last year was great. But I would say, I'll be honest, I don't think that we did it as well as we could have. I think as an organization, we've relied heavily on winning. I think we were very spoiled with the Manning years, and then immediately going into Andrew Luck, who just dominated out of nowhere, and there was never that, we're building, it'll take time. We just jumped right into success. So I think it hit our fan base really hard, and it was kind of something where we just tried to ignore it for a little while and always just hope that we'd win the next game, but we were so average. It was 8-8, 8-8. So I would say that we didn't handle the losses well, and it was something that, especially, I mean, early on in the season, or 2018 season, starting off 1-5, I think we were more relatable, more personable, more accepting of what was happening. And Frank Reich, he made it so easy that, you know, everybody expected this to be a rebuild year because of just the clean slate that we had, the young team that we had. Andrew Luck's back. Is he going to be okay? We don't know. So nobody expected success, which probably helped us ease into it a little bit. But the biggest thing that I took away from that 1-5 start was the importance of becoming more relatable, becoming more human-like in our tone, in our voice, and that's something that you'll probably see a lot in our channels coming into 2019. That's going to be a big focus for us, because I think the most relatable moment that we have ever had was the McDaniels situation and how we handled that. I think, and it wasn't, we didn't go into it saying like, oh, we should make fun of ourselves for this. It was, you know, it wasn't our fault.
Right.
We couldn't control that, and having, you know, the front office support of just handle it like the best way that you think is possible. I think fans really rallied behind us, which was a good proving point that the more relatable we can be to our fan base, the more accepting they'll be of our wins and our losses.
Yeah.
Would hope that we win next year, so I don't have to really deal with losses. But I've always admired, you know, like, so Allie Raymond, she's with the Browns, and you just, there's so much, you know, sympathy you have for that, and I'm so happy that they're doing well. But you have so much sympathy for someone like that, but she's mastered just having such a relatable account, and she's definitely a good person to have in your corner. So she's always good and willing to help anybody when it comes to not having the best season. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I'd love to talk about how and when you ever collaborate with other NFL franchises. You mentioned the Browns.
Yeah.
Are there other kind of opportunities throughout the year that you kind of need to collaborate? And if so, are there any challenges that come with that?
Yeah, I would say that that was probably the biggest surprise for me joining an NFL club, is how welcoming everybody is. So we have a group chat that we use that has every club on it and that we use regularly, and it's just throwing ideas back and forth, helping people out with information. We always joke, so like schedule release I'm just gonna use this because it's a hilarious story, and I'm so sorry, Stephen at the Bengals, for using you as a joke here, but
we won't send it to him.
yeah, we won't send it to Stephen. No, he'll actually laugh. But so the schedule release, the NFL sends the schedule to either the owner, or the CEO, or the COO, your GM first, right? So they get the schedule, and then it slowly gets trickled down to us nobodies to make the content so that we can release it at 8 p.m. So there's not a big window of getting the schedule and promoting the schedule at 8 p.m. So we have a great relationship, thank God, with our PR staff, our ownership, our GM, and our coach. So the moment they get the schedule, they share it with us. We can get all of our content ready to go. Steven was not so lucky. And it was like he was using the group chat to see who played the Bengals so that he could build his schedule based off of like what everybody else. I was like, well, we got you week 1, so it's at this time and we're here. So everybody is so great to work with, and they're always really good too. We are very conservative. We're the good guys, our Midwestern values. That's kind of our personality. So we don't tend to interact with a lot of other teams. Also, we just have been losing most of the time, so we don't have a ton of weapons to throw at people. But I remember, so our agency that we were working with launched Colts Foraged, which is kind of our theme that we have now. And when that launched, I remember the Vikings coming in and like throwing a joke, and it was at our expense because it just the launch did not go well. It didn't play out the way that the agency was expecting, and so the Vikings jumped on it and they were like, oh, we use Forge on or Forge ahead or whatever it is. Like they owned the word Forge. They don't. So the Titans, so Nate reached out and he was like, hey, you know, my boss really wants us to jump on this because they also used the word Forge in one of their I don't know, campaigns that they had. And he reached out and he was like, hey, you know, my boss really wants us to jump on this. This is what we're thinking about saying, just so you have time to kind of prepare if there's any like rebuttal that you have. So everybody's super collaborative. And I think also too, we all understand how hard this job is. Sure. And so nobody wants the others to like fail or struggle. So we're all pretty good about helping each other out. I didn't expect that community. And we do meet annually. I think this year we're in Austin, Texas, but we all just get together, talk about what sucked, what was awesome, what we can learn from, advice from people, how are people's staff set up. So we're all very collaborative. It's a really, really strong group.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're proud to have a great relationship with your internal kind of colleagues, with the PR team and other departments. What other groups within the Colts organization do you really rely on to help move your objectives forward, and how do you make sure that there's, you know, communication or just information about what needs to be pushed out? Like, how do you maintain that kind of internal operation?
Yeah, so I would say it came with time. I think people will notice that the content that we're producing this off season and going into 2019 season is the most behind the scenes access that we've ever really had before. And there's a reason behind that. I think we have built trust over time. Front office buy-in is so important. You know, they hired us for a reason, and for them to trust you to do your job is such good leadership in my opinion, and they do trust us to handle just about anything. So I would say front office, so you know, your ownership, your higher ups like our CMO. But the biggest relationships for us is with our communications department, our PR department, and our football ops. So the coach GM relationship is so important. I can't attest this enough how great they've been to work with. Like, they really get it. They don't mind the cameras in their face because they understand that fans are the, you know, bloodline to our entire career. Like, we need fans to fill seats and we need fans to consume our product. So they get it, and it's been such a fun last couple of seasons. And what we have cooking right now this off season, I think, is going to really surprise people, just the access that we have. But I would say buy-in, and then obviously players. You need support from the players big time. And I think it does help that we got a lot younger because they all have Twitter and Instagram, and they want cameras in their face, and they want to be highlighted, and they want to do the shout outs. And they've been so great, the young guys that we have on this roster. I'm so excited. And it also helps when you have, you know, AP, All-Pro talent, and, you know, ESPN and, you know, Bleacher Report and House of Highlights, they want to talk about your guys. So I will never complain about that. But I would say player, coach, GM, like football ops, and ownership buy-in is crucial in our line of work, at least.
Great. Well, I know there's going to be a lot of questions, so I want to make sure we're leaving plenty of time for that. So I'm just going to ask 2 more questions, and then I'll pass it around. These are kind of more fun ones, but one thing I wanted to ask was, what is one marketing lesson you've learned from a Colts player?
That Twitter can literally take you anywhere, good or bad. Because I've seen players.
Do you want to elaborate on that?
I won't really elaborate on the bad ones, but I think what Pat did to boost his career post football was amazing. And people are always like, "Well, the Colts helped him get there." Like, no, Pat helped us in our time of need. It's always really, I talk about going back and looking at old posts, but so he used to do like these Facebook Friday videos on Facebook, and I mean, they're so bad now when you watch them, but I mean, he didn't have to do that. He just understood, he got it, he wanted his face out there, and he used social media to kind of drive his brand. And I think players are just now kind of understanding that value. He was definitely ahead of the game, and so when he decided to end his football career, he had another one immediately lined up. So I mean, he broke 1 million followers before the Colts did. So on Twitter, I should say. So I would say the biggest lesson for me is that players want that, and players kind of need that nowadays. And yeah, I won't speak on the bad ones.
I'm sure it's probably great to have people within the organization that are trying to work on their own personal brand and kind of helping elevate yours.
Yeah, and it's honestly helped us so much. It's kind of like a nice trade. I spend a lot more, I should have mentioned this on my day-to-day, I spend a lot more time now sending content to players specifically, photos, videos, graphics, for their own personal accounts, just because the stronger their platforms become, the stronger ours do. Because you look at Deion Kane, who's a rookie wide receiver, who tore his ACL on the first ever NFL preseason game. So none of our fans really know Deion, and none of Deion's fans really know the Colts. So when we collaborated with him and worked on that piece of content, it was, you saw the return of all these Clemson fans now supporting the Colts, just because of this small trade that we had. So the more we can capitalize on their audience, the more that they can capitalize on ours. So I think you'll probably see a lot more content coming from players, not just from our club, but I think from around the league, just because we all see the benefit of it. And I think that the players are going to start requesting that a little bit more. But yeah, it's a really strong working relationship.
That's great. All right, last question. Besides Blue, obviously, who is your favorite NFL mascot?
So he knows this. So it's not a secret. So if he ever hears this, he'll know. But it's Sir Purr. And he will always hold a soft spot.
For those
Sorry, the Carolina Panthers, Sir Purr. And I highly recommend just Googling Sir Purr videos, because he embodies what cats are in just normal life. And it is so funny to me, his character. But it's funny you bring up mascots, because Blue hosts an annual NFL mascot summit every year. So
he hosts it?
Yeah.
Oh.
He's pretty up there in the mascot community. Fun fact. But so every year, and they usually raid our building too, which is hilarious. But at any given moment, there's 15, 20 mascots like just taking over the city of Indianapolis, and they'll host a mascot versus Pee Wee game for charity, and it's always hilarious. So I've gotten to know a lot of them without their fur, and it is so funny to see. Like they are their characters. Like so, Trey.
It's like animals or pets that look like their owner.
Yes. So Trey Mock is Blue. And he's done a great job, and he recently started doing high school shows where he removes his head just to kind of talk about bullying and how you can always hide behind something, but there's real people that you're affecting. He's done a great job, but it's always so funny to see the real life humans underneath the mascots. But yeah, I would say Sir Purr for sure. And then just like human wise, I love who's under Freddie the Falcon. He's great too.
Awesome.
But yeah, Sir Purr for sure. Look up the videos.
We'll
Highly
send this
recommend.
podcast recording to him.
Absolutely.
So that he knows.
Well, he even gave me a Sir Purr winter hat when he found out that I loved him, and it was like the little ears. It's great. I should have brought it. Highly recommend Sir Purr.
All right. Well,
But still follow Blue. I have to say that, or else Trick Shot Thursday is his thing now. So plug hashtag.
Yeah.
Trick Shot
That's
Thursday.
important. All right, well, we're going to do some questions, but before we
Yes.
do, can everyone just help me thank Amber for joining us tonight?
Thank you.
All right, speak loudly into the mic. or not? Just speak normal.
Yeah, I should probably speak loudly, but then just hold the mic in a way. Hi, everybody. I have 2 questions.
Yes.
Is that allowed? Okay.
Oh, I was gonna give you socks, and then I realized you were
Yeah,
PFL.
yeah, that's
You don't
fine.
need that.
I have plenty. All of my socks are pretty much from there. With so many social scheduling and social listening tools, I was just kind of curious what you use.
Yeah, so I've gone through the gamut for sure. So the league provides one tool called Spreadfast, which I've appreciated and used pretty frequently. We invested in Social Studio, which is probably the most robust. That's linked with
Salesforce Marketing Cloud.
yes, Salesforce. I guess plug, I don't know. But it's definitely the most robust. I have to assume that it's extremely expensive, but I've always been a sucker for using just organic Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Just their native.
Just their native. It's so, I know that it's not super common, but all it takes is for like one post to not go out scheduled through this third-party platform, and then your whole life's a wreck. And once it happens once, and it's happened to me, I love the organic platforms. My personal favorite tool that I use on a day-to-day is CrowdTangle. Big advocate for that. It allows you to kind of see your performance. It's a really good search tool as well. But for like brainstorming, I can create a list of, I shouldn't say I should create, because I have them, but I have a list of all NFL clubs, and all I have to do is pick the date range of the schedule release from last year, and it'll pull every single schedule release piece of content that all 32 clubs produced, and it's a really fun brainstorming tool that I like to use. It also does a good job of ranking in a way that's fair, because if I was to put our posts up next to the Dallas Cowboys, I mean, I think we all know which one's going to outperform the other, but it compares you to yourself. So how is this post overperforming for your specific content? So it's always nice to kind of see that ranking, because it levels the playing field. So I love CrowdTangle. I use that daily. You can set reports that are automatically sent to my email. So every Monday at 12:30, I know that my CrowdTangle reports are coming, which has always been great. And I always joke that they're like my 12th man. It's my second set of eyes. They've helped me out a lot. And they recently did a case study too, if anybody wants to go more in depth of how I use them. But I would say that would probably be my biggest one. But social listening, I would say Social Studio is my biggest one. But I love just getting on Twitter, reading our mentions in real time. I'm also very anti-scheduling, just because all it takes is for something to be taken the wrong way, and I'm away from my computer not really looking at it, which I kind of screw myself in doing that, because then it's like so I have a post that's going out at 8 o'clock tonight, and so I plan on posting it. You kind of have to like be there and be ready for it. But it doesn't bother me too much, just because of the security blanket that I kind of have, like getting to watch it go out, seeing the immediate reaction, knowing that there's no issues. So it's kind of a comfort level for me, but to each their own, I guess. So.
Okay, second question. What was it? Oh yeah, can you just walk me through your most successful campaign that you've had since being at the Colts?
Ever.
Social, just
Yeah. I would probably say, campaign-wise, I mean, it's not really a campaign, but I would probably say the McDaniels Reich announcement. How we announced Reich's hiring, the content that followed, I would say that was very strong, very well received. We even got compliments back, like internally, just really thankful that we handled it the way that we did, and the reaction was great online. So I'd probably lean towards that. And then I'll just add to your question, my favorite piece of content ever was the Captain Andrew Luck spoof video that we did at the beginning of this past season. Collaborating with him was awesome. I was like the only person at the office, so my voice is in it, which is the only thing that I hate, which also this podcast, I'm never gonna listen to it. But I loved that video. I thought that it was really fun. Fans didn't expect it. Getting Andrew to be involved in it was also a huge win for us, because there's certain ideas that you throw out there that they aren't gonna stick, but you ask anyway. And for some weird reason, he was like, yeah, okay. He's like, well, what color's the coat? Like, that was really important to him. He wanted to make sure that he was on the right side of the Civil War. But I would say that was probably like the funnest just process of getting that piece of content out, which I added to your question, but.
So I'm assuming, is it talking?
Yeah.
Okay. So you are very likely privy to the operations, right? The strategy. So you can answer this just from a media PR perspective, social media planning, or overall when games are being planned. Is there any other industry, business, maybe even a game that's not NFL football? Sometimes the best ideas, come from other industries, other businesses. So I'm just looking for some example on those lines.
And I would I'll bring up CrowdTangle again. So I'm able to build out these lists that I use to kind of monitor and see content. So I am and people at work will probably listen to this and laugh just because of the fact that I'm mentioning it. I hate baseball so much. Like, it is with a passion that I hate baseball.
I do too. I grew up on cricket, but that's
Yes, it is an awful sport. It is dangerous when you go there. You have to pay attention or you could die. Like, who wants to go to that? But they make amazing content. I mean, like the Brewers, the Cubs, the Red Sox, the content is amazing. I can't follow those accounts because I will literally hate myself having to watch baseball updates pop up on my feed. So it's always a lot of fun to get on CrowdTangle and see what content they're doing. All you have to do is hit overperforming. Usually I use my inspiration for video content, and you can select a video content, and it'll pop right up. So the Brewers just posted a video of, like, You Can't Sit With Us, Mean Girls spoof. Would have never seen that ever unless I had that tool. But I get a lot of inspiration from non-NFL. I think sometimes we get really repetitive in what we're doing. I think that's also why I like the Captain Andrew Luck idea so much, because it doesn't exist anywhere else. And that's not to say that you can't get inspiration from other NFL clubs. I think a lot of people often think that it's their competition, but an avid Colts fan isn't following the Packers, isn't following the Ravens. So it's not to say that you can't get inspiration from those clubs, but we definitely want to stand out and be different. So I would say other leagues we pull a lot of inspiration from. One of the ideas that I keep pitching that keeps getting turned down is the 72 questions by, anybody know what that is? It's like a fashion, Vogue, yes. So they did that with Kendall Jenner. I thought it was the funniest thing ever. And I just wanted to do it with, like, Andrew Luck and just annoy the crap out of him, and him to not even get to 72 questions. It's been denied a million times, so it's not happening anytime soon. But so it's always fun to get, like, just ideas from different clubs. And I'd say that we probably look outside of the NFL more than people probably think. I don't know where to go.
Okay, I'd like to know if there are certain goals or quotas for how many posts per platform,
Yeah.
Like how many Instagram posts you have to hit a day, that sort of thing. And I hate to ask you two questions at once, but how does that vary throughout the season, or throughout the year?
So, and this kind of came again with that whole trust factor. I would say that there was a time, I'll even be more specific with Instagram, where we were like, we're just not growing the fan base that we wanted to. Maybe, Instagram changed their algorithm, so it wasn't in chronological order, and we were all over the place. So we're like, let's post 15 times a game day, no matter what. And then I can't remember what our number was throughout the middle of the week. it was exhausting trying to post that much. And then when you put a quota on something, I feel like that's kind of forcing you to reach that number when it's probably not best for you. So say if we wanted to average 5 posts a day and we did 3 really good ones, and now it's like, well, we got to think of 2 more, I guess. And it's, so for us, we stopped doing kind of that quota number and really just listened more to the fan and what we had going on. We obviously do post a lot more in season just because there's a lot more going on. We stopped doing in-game updates. We used to do that back in the day. It's just when you're losing, it's just like, oh, they scored again. Like, it wasn't worth it for us to, like, why would we tweet that? Because we'll always post like a halftime and final score graphic, so people are going to figure out that we're losing anyway. But I would say that was part of the dropping the post volume, was just to not set expectations in terms of how many posts we're doing. The expectations more so are whatever we're posting better perform really well, because it better have a purpose. So we kind of flipped that a little bit. And I think that can be related to anything, not just sports. It's just making sure that you know your audience and you know what they want. Listening tools are great for doing that, but I think just always going back and checking to see how your content's performing in real time kind of is the best indicator for that. Obviously for us, roster moves are going to perform extremely well. But I can promise you that the Clayton Geathers signing is going to do 10 times better than a practice squad move that happens randomly, unless it's Philip Walker, because for some reason everybody loved that we just kept signing him and dropping him, signing him and dropping him, signing him and dropping him. So for us, it was, let's make sure that we're putting Clayton Geathers on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram stories, like just really getting the news out there. But a practice squad move might be just a tweet. It'll probably never make its way to any other platform. But again, you notice that by just real time assessing what fans are reacting to. And then on top of that, like Twitter specifically just released the new tool where you can check to see what hour and day of the week is your highest trafficked time to post. So you'll notice a lot of our content is posted between 7 and 9 p.m. And that is on purpose. We don't post a lot in the morning. The lunch hour, you'll catch us a little bit right before 5 o'clock. We'll probably drop something, but almost all of our content is released between 7 and 9 o'clock, and that is on purpose, just because we've seen the highest interaction rate during those hours. So again, it's just kind of studying it, seeing how your content's performing, what people are reacting to, what the conversations are. I genuinely try and read every single comment and reply that comes our way, because I love the feedback and I think that you can learn from it. Just Facebook is dark. It is the darkest platform ever. It used to be Instagram, and for some reason just the hate traveled to Facebook, and I don't know why. But yeah, then what was your second part?
Just how that fluctuates through the season. But
Yeah, I think I get that.
have a third question, but I'm gonna. Sorry.
Mike, for the third question?
I can take one more question. How about you hold on till right afterwards? I can take one more question, not because I only have one pair of socks, but because Eva was acting like a total boss and made sure that the construction workers who are tearing up the building would stop working until 7 o'clock, at which point you may start hearing drilling again. You've got your hand up. All right.
And I will hang around after this for a little while if anybody has additional questions. I am more than willing to hang out. So, yes.
Awesome. Thank you. So I just have a question about how you deal with the negativity that comes from work that is so public facing.
Yeah. I would say you somewhat become numb to it. The losing seasons, it's just become so repetitive that you just get used to it. I think, and I'll also say this, I think people handle it differently. I have always had really thick skin, and I don't think that people who don't handle it well don't necessarily have thick skin. I think that it's just the level of hate can always kind of change. There's the typical trolls of just non-Colts fans that are just on your account just to get like other fans riled up. But then you have the people who, if you've ever made a mistake, so like I keep bringing up McDaniels. I don't know why. He doesn't deserve it. The McDaniels situation was 100% out of our control, right? Here we are thinking that this guy is coming here. I mean, details down to like what they're going to eat for breakfast the next morning because their flight was arriving at this time. Like it was that thought out. So in our eyes, there is nothing to worry about. And then there I am at an Outback Steakhouse with my dad eating dinner, and I see a tweet from like Schefter that says that he bailed, and that's literally how I found out. So I left dinner, didn't even eat, and made my dad pay for the bill. But yeah, so I would say those reactions of, you know, people saying that I should be fired and that, I mean, you always get called an intern, but that is what it is. And the hardest thing was, you know, for us, we didn't know if it was true or not. So nobody's at the office. I left Outback Steakhouse and literally went to the office. And I think it was at like 8 p.m., 9 p.m. Calling people. Obviously, everybody else is also calling people. I'm calling my boss. He's, you know, canceling, you know, my call he's talking with owners, and all those things are going on. So we weren't able to delete it immediately, just because why would I delete something that we didn't know was accurate? I think it wasn't until like an hour and 15 minutes that we were told to take everything down. And once that happened, you know, you get on and it's all right there. People are saying that you should get fired. My mom's calling me saying like, "Are you still employed?" Like it, like, and like it's funny now, but like it genuinely was like so. That was one of the like hardest nights of like my entire time working there, just because you got all this hate and people had no idea that like, I mean, why would we promote it if we knew that he wasn't going to come? But I would say you kind of become numb to it. You just kind of ignore it a little bit. But I'm not big on blocking. The only time I've ever blocked people is if they are like hate speech. So things on people's race and that kind of stuff. Like I don't condone that, but if you want to tell us that we suck and that we should fire people and all this other stuff, like absolutely, just hit me with it. But I'm definitely used to it. It's always worse when it's like you do something and it is your fault. Because I remember the 2015 training camp prescription drugs tweet. Anybody remember that? I do. But I was so new, and it was one of those sponsored posts by the Indiana General Council or whatever that thing is, where you could sponsor a day at training camp, and theirs was bring your expired prescription drugs to camp, and you get like a 2014 season DVD or something stupid. But you know, we had like these production orders that we get for sponsored posts where it's like date, time, copy, image, like everything's all laid out. So and I get sent those from my boss. So I'm like in my head, I'm not thinking literally anything of it. Post it. It doesn't bode well when your owner has previous experience with prescription drugs and driving under the influence. So when the team is requesting you to bring them to us, which is even easier, that didn't go well. So, and again, like I can totally laugh about it now, but that was also another rough night, another phone call from mom asking if I was still employed. You know, the Deadspin article made its way around very quickly, and we didn't even delete that one. We like replied and said like, no, this is what we meant, like again, as if it was gonna be better. And that wasn't my idea. That's another one of those, you just gotta post it. But yeah, it's a good question, but I would say people handle it differently. But I would say that there's people that don't really handle it well and that it can be really dark. I think social media is a dark place, and we don't take it seriously enough when people are attacked on the other end. I know, you know, just from talking to people, like the Florida State football account that posted the MLK graphic where they put the glove on him. I don't know if anybody saw that one. So it was MLK Day, and they made a graphic with Martin Luther King Jr. Wearing a Florida State Nike glove, which was just in poor taste. But the girl that posted it, I don't even think that runs the account, I don't think that she even posted it. But the death threats that she got, the hate speech that she got, she was devastated from that, and it's just not something that everybody's like equipped to handle, and nobody ever understands like what's happening on the other side. So I would say a lot of it's kind of funny and you just like laugh it off, but it can get really dark and really serious. I mean, I genuinely have gotten death threats before, obviously we report those, but it's one of those things where you kind of just have to brush it off. I've gotten really, really good at it. I took things very, very seriously my first couple of years. You post something and it just gets an awful reaction and you just like hate yourself for it. You're like, why did I come up with that idea? That was stupid. You can't delete it because then you bring more attention to it. This is awful. So you kind of like hate yourself for it in the beginning, but you get thicker skin and you grow from it, and now I genuinely just don't care if people don't like something I post. I'm like, y'all try it. It's really hard sitting in this seat. So I would say that it gets easier, but also just if we could all just be nicer,
Agreed.
Keyboard warriors.
Agreed. Thank you. All right, can we give a round of applause for her? Thank you. That was super interesting stuff. All right, I mentioned 2 years. It has been 2 years. Last year, we celebrated our 1 year with a nice, more mixer networking style event up on the north side. It is time to come do that again and hang out and chit chat and celebrate the fact that we have made it yet another year. So if you can go actually to agilemarketingindy.com, it'll take you to the Eventbrite page. You can register for that right now. Locations TBD on that, but we will of course send that to you as we get closer to time. So definitely show up. That's a nice one because it's a little bit different than the panels or the fireside chats or the presentations. We get more of an opportunity to really like sit down or mingle and chat with other people who are also trying to find new ways of doing some cool shit. So come join us there. And then I think that is really about it. Thank you for coming. I know we had a lot more questions that I kind of saw some eyes and hands out there. So I think Amber will be around for a bit. So come over and chat with her. Thank you all for coming and enjoy the rest of your evening.